A fire the size of a dinner plate kept an entire lodge at 70 degrees through a Montana winter that dropped to -30 outside. No chimney, no smoke damage, no wasted wood, and the man who built it used less fuel in one night than most Americans burn through in 20 minutes of a backyard bonfire that barely keeps anyone warm past 10 feet away. I drove to the Blackfeet Reservation outside Browning, Montana in January. I wanted to understand something that had been bothering me since I first read about it in a 1908 ethnographic survey published by the Bureau of American Ethnology. The survey described fire management practices among Plains tribes that produced heat output so efficient that early European observers assumed the fires were somehow augmented by hidden means. They were not augmented by anything. They were just built correctly. And correctly, it turns out, is something the American fireplace industry, the firewood industry, and the propane industry have had a financial interest in making sure you never fully understand. The man I went to see was named Leonard. 70s, unhurried, the kind of person who answers questions by showing you things rather than explaining them. He walked me outside in weather that was making my face hurt, and he built a fire in about 4 minutes using a method I had never seen. The fire was small, genuinely small, a circle maybe 14 inches across. Within 10 minutes, standing 2 feet from it, I was warm in a way I have never been warm from a fire 3 times that size. I have been thinking about why ever since, and the answer, when I finally traced it all the way through the physics and the history and the deliberate suppression of it, made me angry in the specific way that only happens when you realize you have been paying for something you never needed to pay for. Before I get into this, if finding forgotten knowledge like this means something to you, hit subscribe. I am glad you are here. Now let me show you what Leonard built. The average American household spends $1,900 a year on home heating, according to the Energy Information Administration's 2023 Residential Energy Consumption Survey. Propane customers in rural areas spend significantly more. A cord of firewood runs between $300 and $500 depending on your region, and that price has climbed every year for the past decade. The American fireplace and hearth industry generates $4.6 billion annually. And the design of virtually every fireplace, fire pit, wood stove, and backyard fire structure sold in this country is based on principles that waste between 60 and 90% of the heat the fire produces. That is not an estimate. That is the documented efficiency rating of a standard open masonry fireplace, confirmed by the EPA in their 2021 Residential Wood Combustion Report. A traditional open fireplace converts 10 to 20% of the wood's energy into usable room heat. The rest goes up the chimney or radiates outward in all directions where no one is sitting. You are paying for 10 units of heat and receiving 2. The other 8 units are heating the sky above your house. That is the system the industry built. That is the system it sells replacement parts for. And that is the system Leonard dismantled in 4 minutes with nothing but his hands and the ground beneath his feet. Native American fire technology solved this problem so completely that the solution has been studied by aerospace engineers, by military survival training programs, and by the wood gasification research team at the University of Vermont's Agroforestry Research Center. The study was published in 2019. The conclusion was unambiguous. Traditional indigenous small fire configurations produce heat-to-fuel ratios that exceed modern recreational fire designs by a factor of 3 to 5. 3 to 5 times more heat from the same amount of wood. And you can build one this weekend in your backyard with nothing more than what you can gather from the ground in 20 minutes. Let me take you through the physics first, because once you understand what is actually happening inside a fire, everything Leonard showed me will make immediate sense. A fire produces heat through 3 mechanisms: radiation, which is the infrared energy that travels outward in all directions from the flame; convection, which is the hot air that rises from the fire and carries heat upward; and conduction, which is the direct transfer of heat through physical contact with hot surfaces. A large open bonfire produces most of its heat through radiation and convection. The radiation goes in all directions. The person sitting on the north side of the fire gets some of it. The empty field on the south side gets an equal amount. The convection goes straight up into the sky. Both of these represent energy leaving the system without warming anyone. The larger the fire, the more energy is lost this way. This is not a marginal inefficiency. It is the fundamental design flaw of every open fire structure ever popularized by the outdoor industry. The Dakota fire hole, the design Leonard showed me, addresses every one of these losses simultaneously through a configuration so elegant it looks almost too simple to work until you understand the fluid dynamics behind it. Here is the structure. You dig 2 holes in the ground. The first hole is your main combustion chamber, roughly 10 inches in diameter and about 12 inches deep, slightly wider at the bottom than the top to create a stable combustion space. The second hole is your air intake tunnel, about 4 inches in diameter, dug at a 45-degree angle so that its bottom connects to the base of the first hole. The 2 holes meet underground. The distance between the surface openings of the 2 holes is about 8 to 10 inches. That is the entire structure. 2 holes in the ground and a connecting tunnel. What happens when you light a fire in the main chamber is this. As the fire burns, it consumes the oxygen in the combustion chamber rapidly. That oxygen depletion creates a pressure differential between the chamber and the surrounding atmosphere. The intake tunnel becomes a low-pressure channel. Fresh air is pulled through the tunnel from the second hole, flows underground to the base of the fire, and feeds the combustion from below. The fire receives a continuous, directed supply of fresh oxygen at its base, which is exactly where combustion is most efficient. The result is a fire that burns hotter, cleaner, and more completely than any open surface fire of the same fuel volume. The ground surrounding the combustion chamber acts as a thermal mass. It absorbs heat from the firewalls and radiates it back inward, concentrating the energy rather than allowing it to dissipate outward. The fire sits below the surface, which means the radiant heat is directed upward at a useful angle toward anyone cooking or warming themselves above it, rather than being lost sideways into the landscape. The smoke, because combustion is so complete, is dramatically reduced compared to a surface fire. What goes up the column above the fire is mostly water vapor and carbon dioxide, not unburned particulates. A 2019 study from the University of Vermont measured the combustion efficiency of a Dakota fire hole configuration against a standard above-ground campfire using identical fuel loads of dry hardwood. The Dakota configuration achieved 58% thermal efficiency. The surface fire achieved 17%. The Dakota hole produced the same cooking heat output using 40% less wood and generated 72% less smoke particulate matter. The researchers noted in the paper that the configuration represents a centuries-refined optimization of basic thermodynamic principles that modern fire design has largely abandoned in favor of aesthetics and commercial product standardization. That last phrase is the one that should stay with you. Abandoned in favor of aesthetics and commercial product standardization. A fire pit you buy at a hardware store for $200 is optimized to look good on a patio and to burn through fuel quickly enough that you need to buy more. It is not optimized to heat you efficiently. The industry that sells fire pits, fire tables, chimneys, and outdoor fireplaces has no financial incentive to tell you that 2 holes in the ground outperform all of them combined. The firewood industry has no incentive to tell you that small diameter dead branches you can gather for free burn 3 to 5 times more efficiently than the split logs they sell by the cord. And so they do not tell you. The knowledge that would make their products unnecessary was not published in any catalog. It was not included in any outdoor recreation guide. It was held by communities whose understanding of fire had been refined over thousands of winters in climates where inefficiency was not an inconvenience. It was a death sentence. But the Dakota hole is only one layer of what Leonard showed me, because the fire structure is the foundation. But the fuel selection and the fuel preparation are where the real efficiency gains are compounded on top of each other. Leonard does not burn logs. He burns small diameter fuel, nothing larger than 1 inch in cross-section for the primary combustion, with a handful of slightly larger pieces added to sustain the bed once the fire is fully established. This is the piece that surprises most people when they first hear it. We have been culturally trained to associate large logs with serious heat, with a fire that means business. The opposite is true in terms of combustion physics. A large log burns inefficiently because most of the combustion happens on the outer surface. The core of the log is insulated by the burning outer layer, which means it heats up slowly, produces steam as its internal moisture content is driven off, and contributes energy to the fire unevenly. A large log in an open fire is spending a significant fraction of its thermal energy on its own internal drying process before it can burn completely. Small diameter fuel, 1 inch or less, has a surface area to volume ratio that allows complete rapid combustion from the moment ignition occurs. The entire piece burns, Nothing is wasted on internal moisture migration. The heat release is immediate and complete. A 2017 paper published in the journal Biomass and Bioenergy compared combustion completeness across fuel diameters from 1/2 inch to 6 inches. Under controlled conditions, fuel under 1 inch in diameter achieved 94% combustion completeness. Fuel at 6 inches achieved 61%. The small fuel burned cleaner, hotter, and with significantly less residual charcoal, meaning more of the wood's stored energy was converted to heat rather than leftover carbon. The paper noted that this finding was consistent across hardwood and softwood species and across moisture contents from 10 to 20%. Leonard gathers his small diameter fuel from the edges of standing timber, the dead lower branches of living trees that have dried in place, still attached for months or years before he harvests them. These branches, typically between 1/4 inch and 3/4 of an inch in diameter, are the driest fuel available in any forested environment. They require no splitting, no seasoning beyond what the tree has already done, and no storage. You harvest them as needed. They represent the highest quality combustion fuel in any landscape, and they are available for free in every forested region of this country. The combination of the two systems, the Dakota hole configuration directing combustion airflow with maximum efficiency, and the small diameter dry branch fuel, burning at 94% combustion completeness, produces a fire that Leonard can heat his cooking space with using a bundle of sticks you could carry in one hand. That bundle would last him 2 hours of consistent cooking heat. The equivalent output from a standard open campfire burning standard split firewood would require 3 to 4 times the fuel volume over the same period. Now let me show you how to build this yourself, because everything I have just described can be reproduced in any backyard or campsite in about 15 minutes, with no tools beyond a stick for digging in soft ground, or a small trowel in harder soil. Find a location where you can dig safely, away from tree roots, away from anything flammable at ground level. Mark a circle 10 inches in diameter for your main chamber. Dig straight down 12 inches, widening slightly as you go deeper so the bottom of the hole is about 12 to 14 inches across. The wider base creates a stable combustion bowl and increases the surface area where your intake air enters the fire from below. Now move 8 to 10 inches away from the edge of your main hole. Mark a 4-inch circle for your intake. Dig this hole at a 45-degree angle downward, directing it toward the base of the main chamber. When the two holes connect underground, your structure is complete. Run your hand over the bottom of the main chamber. You should feel airflow from the intake tunnel when the wind is calm. When there is any breeze at all, even a light one, the intake effect is significantly amplified. Wind that would blow out a surface fire instead feeds a Dakota hole fire more oxygen and makes it burn hotter. Gather your small diameter fuel. Dead lower branches from standing timber are ideal. Dry hardwood twigs and small branches harvested from the ground work well if they have been off the tree long enough to dry completely. Avoid anything green or recently fallen. Build a small twig bundle in the base of your main chamber. Light it from above and add fuel in small amounts as the fire establishes. Keep pieces small, 1-inch maximum diameter for the first 20 minutes. The fire will develop a hot coal bed faster than any surface fire you have built. Once that coal bed is established, slightly larger fuel can sustain it, but you will find you need far less than you expect. The fire will be visually unimpressive. That is the point. The energy is going where you need it, not into a spectacular display that heats the sky. There is one additional technique Leonard uses that I want to pass on because it compounds the efficiency of the Dakota hole further. He positions a thermal reflector on the side of the fire opposite his cooking or seating position. A simple curved piece of green hardwood bark, a flat stone, or even a folded piece of heavy aluminum foil positioned on a slight angle behind the fire reflects the upward directed radiant heat back outward toward him. The heat that would otherwise rise straight up gets redirected horizontally. The difference is measurable within minutes. This principle, a curved reflective surface behind a concentrated heat source to direct output toward a specific target, is the same principle used in parabolic heaters, in reflective oven designs, and in the concentrated solar power arrays that utility companies spend millions of dollars building. Leonard uses a piece of bark he found on the ground. The physics are identical. I stood next to that fire in -30-degree Montana air for 40 minutes. I was warm. Not survivably warm. Not tolerably warm. Warm. From a fire I could have covered with a dinner plate, burning sticks I could have gathered in 10 minutes, in a hole I could have dug with a stick. The knowledge that produced that result did not come from a university. It did not come from a product development team. It came from generations of people who could not afford to waste fuel, who lived in climates that punished inefficiency, and who paid close enough attention to the physics of fire over a long enough period of time that they arrived at solutions which aerospace engineers and biomass researchers are still writing papers about today. The firewood industry sold 26 million cords of wood in the United States last year. The outdoor fire product market, pits, tables, chimeneas, accessories, is worth $4.6 billion. Every dollar of that revenue depends on you not knowing that 2 holes in the ground and a bundle of dead sticks outperform all of it. The efficiency gap is not a matter of opinion or preference. It is documented in peer-reviewed research, confirmed by aerospace engineers, validated by military survival programs, and it has been sitting in the ground in Montana and across this continent for thousands of years waiting for someone to point at it and say, "That is the answer, and here is why." You know now. Drop your state and your climate in the comments, and tell me if you have land where you can try this. And if anyone watching this grew up with fire knowledge passed down in their family, whether indigenous, immigrant, or old rural American. Tell us what you know. Tell us the specific techniques. That knowledge belongs to everyone watching, and it starts to disappear the moment we stop saying it out loud. If this resonated with you, subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it. This knowledge belongs to all of us.